And near the turn of the millennium, I found myself as a third officer aboard a ship that was ported in Cape Town, South Africa. And I made friends with some locals. One of them, my friend Scott, was known among the locals as the crocodile hunter. Now, I didn't really know what crocodile hunter really meant because I didn't have cable TV. But it turns out in the Navy we have a term for that. It's NAFOD, no apparent fear of death. Okay, now the crocodile hunter, he invited me to go abalone diving at False Bay, it's near Cape Town. And I didn't have any equipment, and I didn't know the reputation of False Bay. But just so you know, False Bay is where the phenomena Air Jaws was documented. This is a bay where you have great white sharks feeding on sea lions that actually fly out of the water with sea lions in their mouths. Anyway, did not know this either. But actually, I also learned this, that the activity that seems to be most fatal with respect to shark attacks happens to be abalone diving. Because where there are abalones, there are sea lions. Nonetheless, in all my ignorance, I said, sure, I'd love to do some abalone diving. We had what we call repostos on this ship, where you can actually prepare your own little meal. So I thought, I'll just make myself some abalone. Never had it before. So at the beginning of the day, we were at the head of False Bay, and there were some San tribesmen that were pulling in their nets from about 3/4 of a mile offshore. They're pulling in very long nets. And at the crocodile hunter's encouragement, I pulled the nets along with these tribesmen, and the fish were getting thicker around our legs. And I would say they're about 2/3 fish that you could eat, and about 1/3 small sharks. Yeah, lots of sharks. But I wasn't connecting it to my abalone diving later on that day. And we were pulling and pulling, and I was like, wow, this is a lot. It was an interesting experience. We go further out towards the mouth of the bay and stop at a place called Boulder Beach, which is now a famous park. But at the time, it was just a boulder field in the water, and you could see lots of penguins there. So I tried to catch a penguin, but they're pretty fast, despite how they look. And also it didn't occur to me that, they're also shark food. So after fun with penguins, we go out towards the mouth of the bay, towards the deeper water, but there's a boulder field, and the boulders sometimes pierce the surface. And at this time, the fog had rolled in, and you couldn't see too far out into the water, but you would hear on occasion, shpalum, shpalum, huge splashes, which we learned later was Air Jaws. And so anyway, we're gonna do some abalone diving, and we're gonna do some lobster fishing, or catch lobster too. Now, those of you in Florida may know that when we catch lobster, when we dive for lobster, we have a tickle stick, and we have a net bag, and we poke the stick into a crevice, and that lobster shoots out into the bag, and you close it up, right? And then you take your measurements. But it's pretty simple. But in South Africa, with the crocodile hunter, they do things a little differently. They have a net bag filled with chopped fish, bait, and they anchor it to the bottom. And they put it among the boulders where the lobsters are hiding, and the lobsters will eventually come out. They're curious about the fish parts that they can, all right? But it is, it's bait. And so, and then you're supposed to swim over them, and snatch them up, and lobsters are really fast. So it wasn't easy. And after we set up the bait bag and in the boulder field, Maria was the crocodile hunter's girlfriend, was standing on the boulder that was pretty close to the surface, and she was looking out for us, just making sure she kept an eye on all of us. And so I missed another lobster. It was too fast. I'm like, I'm just going to do abalone. They are too fast. So I'm prying off abalone and putting it in the bag. And Maria yells out, there's a big blue fish on our bait. And we're like, what? And I could see through there's a big old fish there. And as I got closer, and this crocodile hunter goes, oh, it's just a pajama shark. I'm like, oh, just a pajama shark, I guess. That sounds pretty innocuous. And so we get closer, and he says, oh, okay, Lou, this is what we do. I'll grab the anchor, you get the tail. We swim over to that boulder where Maria was, and we get up there, and then we pull it out. I'm like, okay. This is I don't handle many sharks, and he gets to hold the anchor, and the bait, the bag is in its mouth. Anyway, we go over to the boulder, we stand on it, and I'm holding on to the shark, and he's holding on to the anchor, and we start doing the tug of war, and I'm pulling, and I can feel some give, and I'm working my way up to the shark, right up towards the head, and the bag pops out, the bait pops out of its mouth, and now he's able to go, so I'm gonna go reset the bait bag, and he said, oh, what a lovely specimen, look at those lines, and hundreds of razor sharp teeth. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. He says, okay, Lou, throw her back. I don't know how he knew it was a female, but I was like, you gotta be kidding me. He goes, what? He says, that's a shark. And he says, and the hundreds of razor sharp teeth. He goes, oh, underslung jaw, bottom feeder, perfectly harmless. I'm like, all right. And I threw it back. But it did not forget about me. Okay? That shark just lost breakfast. And Maria is behind, says, Lou, I think it's circling. And it was circling. And that shark arched its back, and it drew down its pectoral fins, and it was doing the jerky thing, like aggravated sharks can do. And after it went around to my 9 o'clock position, it drove straight for me. And it knew that I was the villain. And it drove for me as I stood on this boulder, and it hit me right in the booty. And I could see it. The water was clear enough. I could see it pumping its jaws. Crocodile hunter was right. Underslung jaw. It was not hurting me, but it did slip off my foot and went behind me and went right into Maria's legs, and she absolutely wigged out and flailed her arms and hit me right in the nose, which was the extent of my shark attack injuries. And I will just have to say, of all the creatures in the water that day, Maria was definitely the most dangerous.